My daughter, 21, lives with us while finishing college. My son, 27, lives in the same city and I babysit his children, 3 and 4, so we are bubbled. My sister, who drove 3 hours with her husband and son, 16, to come and see us, has been taking extra precautions prior to this event. Everyone was safe. Daughter-in-law and I don't get along for many reasons I won't go into. She's also just one of those condescending people who thinks that constantly looks down on others, especially because of her veganism. Last Thanksgiving, she raised hell over me making a turkey and claimed there weren't really any vegan options. There were. Last week, daughter-in-law contacts me on Facebook asking for the menu and then telling me what will and won't work. She also sent me many replication recipes to make for her, with expensive specialty items in all of them, many I didn't even know what they were. This annoyed me because I had already made sure to give my son, her, and her kids vegan options for the day, but it wasn't good enough. I finally just told her to go pound sand and that she could bring her own dish for her family if she'd be that picky. Thanksgiving happens. They arrive late with a ton of food dishes, parading them in, all with this vindictive grin on her face. Turns out, she, out of spite, took the exact menu and made her own version of every single dish. Needless to say, I was livid, but I held my tongue. My sister and daughter in particular did try the food and enjoy it. Every time they complimented her, she would give me this look as she received her thanks, before tacking on something like I just wanted to make a Thanksgiving meal that everyone could enjoy. The part where I finally snapped was at dessert. We have a family tradition where, right before we sit down and say what we're thankful for. It's usually for family or being able to gather. When at her turn, she got the same smug, vindictive grin on her face and in the most condescending way, said I'm thankful for starting the new tradition of a cruelty-free, inclusive Thanksgiving and I hope it continues next year. I saw red. I waited until my turn and then said, as calmly as I could, that I was thankful that this would be the last Thanksgiving I'd be spending with her. It took them a moment to catch on, and soon enough nasty words were being exchanged on both sides. I finally kicked them out. I didn't think about it until this evening, when my son sent me a text telling me that he would not be letting his children come over until I personally apologized to his wife. He said that while he sees my side, she didn't mean it and that I took it way too far by publicly embarrassing her when she spent so much time making food for everyone. My husband is telling me I should just apologize because it was rude of me and isn't worth it. He doesn't really get why it hurt me so much that she copied my meal to one-up me and thinks the more food, the merrier. Am I the idiot here? Let me know. This is why people don't like vegans, the proselytizing, the smug attitude, the display of privilege through expensive items. She's a guest in your house, you tried to accommodate her dietary requirements, but she went a step beyond and went full diva, then had the cheek to get on her moralistic high horse trying to preach. Good on you for sending them a clear message. Not the idiot. She did it out of spite. She owes you the apology. It's extremely rude to bring an entire new meal without the host's permission. She sprung on you 2 dinners. Wasting all that food. For a vegan, she's really not that smart. Your son also is fully aware she meant it. Inform your son you will not say a word to her until she begs forgiveness for being so spiteful on a holiday about giving thanks. It's also not your problem how much money she wasted. That's on her and your son for allowing his wife to behave so poorly to his family. The blame is fully on her. Not the idiot. There were options here. She could have talked to you about bringing the whole meal done vegan ahead of time. And then she went and spit your face about it. Sure, she might have spent a lot of time and money, but it wasn't for everyone. It was for herself and her pride and her ego. Even if she was sharing, it wasn't generosity. You could have said much worse. I feel like you caught the ball and threw it back. Sounds like she was trying to force it to do it her way in the future. I feel like that was your way of saying, nope. If that's how we're doing it, we're not doing anything. It might have been a low blow, but not idiot level to me. My wife and I have been together since high school. When we were young, we wanted to get a boat and sail the world. Little did we know, instead of doing a pull and pray, we should have just prayed for a dang boat. Anyway, I went to school, got some fancy degrees, while the wife raised our first kid. Had another when I graduated, and sprinkle in a couple more over the years. Don't get me wrong, we adore our kids. Couldn't love them more if we tried. my wife was the best wife and mom. We both knew we wanted more. They don't call it middle-aged for nothing. Our youngest ended up getting pregnant at 16, and we helped her out with a baby until she was about 21, and then she moved out. When she moved out, we made plans. We were going to sell our house, move down to Florida, buy a condo and a houseboat. I was gonna start a business with a buddy of mine down here, and my wife was gonna run it. We sat our kids down and told them that we're leaving, and they all but had a fit and called us selfish. We've been interweaved with our kids' and grandkids' lives since all of their births. Every birthday, every holiday, cut, bruises, scrapes, we've been there, and now we want out, at least just for a little while. Are we, my wife and I, idiots for wanting to disconnect from our families? Not the idiot at all. You're not being part-time grandparents, you're still the mom and dad and grandma and grandpa. You'll just be doing it from a distance. As a parent myself, I know my parenting job won't ever end, but I also know that if my kids are happy and healthy adults, I should be able to have a life separate from that role eventually. Same for y'all. You're not monsters. Enjoy your lives. Hopefully and eventually your kids accept it and are able to understand you have lives beyond just the one they know you from as parent or grandparent. They move out and expect to start their own lives. Why shouldn't you know that you have spare time? I say do it. Do it because you will always have that dream eating away at you if you don't at least try. It's not selfish, that's your house, you paid for it, not your children. Sell it and move so you can see the ocean every day. You have sacrificed a lot for your children, and now that they are adults they should understand that they don't own you. That you are allowed to follow old dreams, and that your whole universe doesn't have to center around their opinions. Go for half a year, or go for 5. There is such thing as Skype and calls to grandchildren, and I'm sure you will see them again sooner than you think. Not the idiot. Maybe a little selfish, but I don't think that's always a bad thing, and you deserve to live your lives independent of your children. I want my parents to be happy, and hopefully your children will feel the same once they see how happy the move has made you. Since I was about 16 I've known I've wanted a pet fox. I've read up on them, know they're a lot of work, and that many owners are irresponsible, and that they can be destructive, but I've known I want one anyways. Now I've graduated with my degree, paid off all my debt, live alone in a house, and I finally started looking into getting a pet fox. I contacted a large wildlife sanctuary here, one of the only licensed sellers of pet foxes in my state, who have taken in many pet foxes that previous owners surrendered to them and began the adoption process. That was more than 4 months ago, and the woman who runs constantly made things difficult for me. In every phone call she seemed skeptical of my intentions. First I had to pay a large cash deposit to even begin the adoption process. Then I had to agree to have a background check and submit proof of income. Then I had to give a virtual home tour by some outsourced service to make sure the environment was suitable for a fox and pay for the cost of the service. I've had at least 3 separate phone interviews now, where I had to answer a bunch of questions about responsible ownership and get quizzed on how to care for a fox. I thought I was finally nearing the end of this process when I then got told that the next step is purchasing 2 bottles of fox urine. Apparently you can buy it online. I looked it up, placed them inside my house, opened the lids on the bottles, and leave them to sit open for a week. Since apparently 63% of new red fox owners surrender the fox within 1 year, and the primary reason is a lack of willingness or ability to deal with fox odor. At this point I went off on her and yelled that I've been going through this stupid process for months. She has a fox, I have the money, why the hell can't I give you the money for the fox and call it a day instead of playing all these stupid games? She just gruffly told me that she had every right to keep my deposit and withhold the fox if I chose to behave this way until or unless I apologized and agreed to her process. Am I the idiot? I feel like I've reasonably demonstrated that I'm willing and able to care for a fox without filling my home with fox piss. You're the idiot. The reason that they want you to do this is because, spoiler alert, owning a red fox is going to fill your house with fox piss, and this is why 2/3 of owners surrender their animal. There is a reason they have this policy. You are trying to adopt a wild animal. They are trying to make sure that animal has the care that it needs. If you can't be bothered to go through their vetting process, then you're demonstrating it might not. You're the idiot. Come on, a lot of us want foxes as pets, but it's still a wild animal. I don't think this woman was in any wrong to make this process so intensive. She wants to make sure the fox is going to a good home, which you should be proving, since so many people want a fox then abandon them. Your house is going to smell like fox piss if you get a fox, whether you like it or not. She is making sure you're not going to abandon the poor guy or mistreat him for his natural smell. You don't seem ready or qualified to have any animal, let alone a wild animal, and they are wild. You are the idiot. I wouldn't adopt you either. You aren't buying an animal from a breeder, sanctuaries and rescues actually give a hell about these animals, and you throw up red flag after red flag. The good news is that you may never get the fox you want, since if you're deemed unqualified then she can also tell other sanctuaries and rescues to bolo for you and tell them about her horrid experience with a potential adopter and get you blacklisted and on a do not adopt list. My godparents passed away shortly before lockdown. They were quite well off and met my mum when she boarded with them during her uni years. I have 4 siblings. One older full brother, 33, me, 29, younger sister, 27, and 2 young step-siblings, 4 and 5, from my stepdad first relationship. I am the only godchild. My godparents were unable to have children of their own and often made it clear that they considered my mum to be like a daughter to them. They were also very close to me, my brother and my sister, although they were too old to really realize that my mum got married again and had step-kids. My godmother in particular was very close to me and taught me Greek and French, her language, and how to bake as a child. Essentially they left a house to my mum as well as $60,000 in a trust for her in case she ever desperately needs money, but also for her stepkids to set up college funds. My godfather's IT business to my brother who has been running the company for them for the last 6 years. A house and $50,000 to my younger sister to pay off her college debt plus $20,000 left over. A 2-bedroom apartment in the city and the small cottage that they retired in as well as around $150,000 to me. Now I'm fairly well off. I have a medical degree, and what little debt I have is mostly paid. I got several scholarships. I plan on moving into their city apartment so I can stop renting and keep the cottage for anyone in the family to go and stay in whenever they want. I plan on using the money to pay off my remaining debt, less than $10,000, and keep $15–20,000 to go towards paying for a nice wedding and honeymoon with my fiancé, but I want to donate the other $120,000 towards causes and charities I support. I told my siblings this and they agree that it would be pointless for us to keep it as we don't need the money. I told my mum about it the other weekend and my stepfather blew a gasket, going on about how it was bad enough that my godparents overlooked his children. They didn't, and now I was too by giving the money away instead of spending it on family. I argued that he has only been with my mum for 2 years and both my godparents were over 95, so they had no real connection to his kids because they were too old and that even then they'd given my mum money for my step-siblings' college funds. He argued back that it was in a trust so they, mum and him, couldn't access it and I said that's the point of a trust and he told me to leave. Am I the idiot for giving away most of my inheritance? Not the idiot, but I would suggest holding off on donating such a large sum until the world has a better feel for how the economy is or isn't going to recover from this current situation. Also, having a pot of money for maintenance for the apartment and the cottage isn't a terrible idea. Is there reason to donate it all right now? Your heart is in the right place. I just urge you to exercise a bit of caution. Not the idiot. As a stepchild myself, I never expected anything from my step-family, and no one ever really should. It took a few years for them to start helping my family out, definitely more than 2, and I completely understand it. You don't owe your stepfather anything, especially if he didn't raise you. Donate it how you see fit. Your godparents don't sound like they'd have left it to you if they didn't trust your decisions. Not the idiot, but I wouldn't donate the money in that manner. I would buy equipment or supplies they need and donate that. As we saw with Hurricane Katrina, Red Cross pocketed the money. Most charities do. That's why they have these huge fancy schmancy charity funds with expensive drinks and dinners. There's your money right there. Supplying the rich's entertainment to steal from the other rich. You could also find some families in need. God knows a lot of people could use it in these hard times, where we are all being laid off because of COVID. God bless you for your generosity and best of luck and prayers in finding those who could really use it. My daughter, 22, recently announced her engagement to her boyfriend, 26, of 3 years. Not long after that she called my wife and I to tell us she's dropping out of college. She basically told us that she wasn't too happy with her major, which to be honest I can believe. She never came across as very enthusiastic about her studies like my other daughter, 25, was. Her new fiancé comes from quite a well-to-do family. His dad basically owns a semi-regional chain of DIY stores, and he's worked in various management positions since he graduated and is in line to inherit the company. My daughter and him have decided that, since he basically has 100% job security and she wasn't too happy doing what she was doing, that it would be better for her to drop out and either get a position at the company or just stay at home. They haven't decided yet. I'm fine with this, my wife not so much. She always wanted both our daughters to be career-minded in life like she's been. She also doesn't like the fact that we have financially supported our daughter through her time in college and she's not getting a degree now. My daughter basically told my wife that she's an adult woman now and has made her decision whether my wife likes it or not. I backed my daughter up. I told my wife she can't expect her to just be a mini-me and that the whole point of us helping her out financially was so she could be happy in life, which she's decided means taking a more traditional path. My wife is still pissed off a few days later, but I'm still standing up for her. No idiots here. This is tough. Both sides are right. No future is ever safe. Companies go under all the time. Divorce happens. Your daughter is 22. How far away is she from finishing? If she doesn't have to work, maybe she could just slow down and finish at her own pace. I think she's likely come so far that it would be silly to stop so close, but you can't make her and she is an adult. You aren't wrong either to not let this be a blow up because ultimately you can't undo her decision. No idiots here. You're right that it's your daughter's decision. Neither you or your wife are idiots based on your opinions. However, I think that your way of looking at things is short-sighted because marriages end and even great businesses can go belly up. Then what? She'll be unemployed and without a degree. Granted, she can always get some job, but probably not a job where she can support a lifestyle she'll become accustomed to. Just something for you guys to consider. You're the idiot. Not for allowing your daughter to make her own adult decisions, but for not counseling her on all the serious lifelong risks of challenges of exiting the workforce at 22 to be completely financially dependent on a partner. This is something that could seriously bite her in the butt if something happens to him, or if something happens to his business or industry, or if they split up in 5 or 10 or 20 years. Lifelong alimony is not a thing anymore in most countries. Support for a disabled spouse or special needs child is incredibly expensive. This is not a wise decision, and while it's absolutely her mistake to make, you have a duty to counsel her on the reasons not to make it.